Hey, sports fans, PBnZ, Sports Chaos. It's the All-American Weekend, July 4th. We got Serena out of the Wimbledon already before the 4th of July, so we'll see how that goes. I'm going to give my man PB kudos. He gave the Avs to the prediction all year long. Did you not take him right from day one?
Before the season started, before the playoffs started, in the pool, everything. So
congratulations. Yeah. Were you a little nervous after they lost game 5 at home last weekend? Friday night, we'll be doing our show, remember?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Tampa Bay proved that they could be resilient, and I wouldn't be surprised if they had come back, but they didn't, good for the Avs.
All right. Hey, we're going to do a little AFC football talk, AFC South divisional playoffs, records, games, I'm sorry. But I got to ask you a question. The big news of the week, Kyrie opted in for his $36 million. Go figure, right? He's going to take the money. He doesn't care about anything else. But Kevin Durant now wants a trade. So is Durant saying, I want to get away from Kyrie? Or is he trying to get Kyrie a better contract?
Not sure I have an opinion on that one, Russ.
That's a good answer. I like that. You know what? I don't either. I mean, those two guys are nuts. All right. Hey, one other thing. This is I thought it was big news. I know only if you're a college football fan, which I am. USC and UCLA are opting out of the Pac-12, the West Coast, leaving the Pac-12, which they are like the founding members of, and they're going to the Big Ten in the Midwest. Does this make sense, baby?
I know you're right, though. When you look at the history behind the Pac-10, it really is all about USC and UCLA. You think back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, they basically represented the Pac-10 in the Rose Bowl every single year, right? And it wasn't until recent years that other teams started. Washington's had a good team a couple of years. Oregon's had a couple good years with their teams. So, they're not necessarily like the foundation of that Pac-10 like they used to be, because there's up and coming teams, but still that's a weak out of the Power 5. They're the weakest already, and now you're just making them weaker. I mean, the American Conference or the could compete with the Pac-10 if they keep going this way.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. You're absolutely right. But hey, by the way, the Big Ten, they're now like 14 teams. How can you be in the Big Ten if you're like 14 teams, for Christ's sakes?
I know.
I know. I think they actually have that thing. Brand. What do you call it?
Copyrighted.
It's official. Yeah, copyrighted. So I think they can't change it, right? Or otherwise they lose that brand. So all right. Let's get into football talk. NFL coming up pretty soon. Right now NFL is a year-round conversation. Remember, Hot Stove used to be about baseball. Hot Stove is literally the NFL. Do you agree?
I agree 100%. And this is the best time of the year for us, because we know sports kind of takes a little rest here over the summer months. But what PBnZ do to keep it fresh for you, we go through week by week for the next 8 weeks. We're going to bring you a division per week. We're going to break it down. We're going to give you our predictions. And then that'll culminate with our NFL preview show in 9 weeks from now, where we'll make the predictions, and we'll obviously have a college preview as well. So that'll happen right at the end of August, leading into the season starting. So some good stuff. And we'll do a fantasy show too. So we got some good stuff on tap here to keep you excited throughout the summer months.
And PB, by the way, you're going to give us a little recap of what we did last year about the AFC South. Is this, quite frankly, possibly the worst division in football? Is that why we did them first?
Yeah, we did. We just wanted to start off light and get ramping up here as time goes on. So, but last year, we didn't do them first last year, but I'll tell you something. Last year, PBnZ, we broke down the AFC South. PB predicted Tennessee to go 12. Z predicted Tennessee to go 12-5. I predicted them to go 11-6. Guess what? They went 12-5. We were pretty much, you were spot on. We were both right there. But we said, jump on the over. That team's over-under last year was 9. For you to lose that bet, they would have had to go 8-9 on the season. That was a no-brainer. So if you listen to PB&Z on that one, you would have made some money. Indy, we both predicted to go 9-8. People had a lot of high hopes for them, but we just said, hey, a game over 500 based on that schedule. Guess what? 9-8. We both nailed that one. Z had Jacksonville going 3-14. Guess what? They went 3-14. 3 exact record predictions. I had them 4-13. I wasn't far off, but what I did say is jump on that under over. Last year was 6.5. They were giving Trevor Lawrence way too much credit in his first year with all the other variables going on there. Easy under pick there at 6.5. And then Houston, we both had them doing pretty crappy. You had them at 2-15. I had them at 3-14. They happened to pull out 4 wins last year, but still PBnZ right on the money. So this is why each week, check this show out, because you are going to be able to make some money on those under overs and get pretty close to the wins totals.
By the way, I may go a ditto on Houston again, so we'll see. All right, let's start it off. What do we want to talk about first? What do you got up?
Let's go, I guess, in the order we think they're going to finish. I mean, this year I got Indy as the winner in that division. I do not see this division anyway putting two teams into the playoffs with that strong AFC. I do have Indy at 10-7.
Okay.
But that's enough to win that division because that's a weak division. They're under overs 9.5 right now. So I definitely be looking at betting the over on their win total. I think they can get off to a hot start. You look at Indy's schedule to open up the season.
Yes.
I think they can get to 6-2 as they get into their week 9 game, which is, by the way, up in New England. But I wouldn't be surprised if this team comes to New England with a 6-2 record. They do have some tough games to start their season. They have to play Kansas City. They have to play at Denver, and they got to play Tennessee twice. But I figured if they split those games, there's your 2 losses, and they should be able to win their other 4. They got Jacksonville, Houston, and stuff mixed in there as well. So I think the Giants. So they should come into that week 9 game against the Patriots at 6-2 with a hot start. But it's pretty tough down the stretch, though. So that's why I'm going to give them a 10-7 final record.
So do you have them losing against the Pats?
I think I think they'll be in a little bit of a hot streak, and they'll come into New England, and the Pats will beat them. That game's up in New England. So, I mean, this team, Indy, we've always touted their offensive line, their defensive line. They got Jonathan Taylor, possibly the best running back in the league, arguably maybe with Derrick Henry, some other guys. Michael Pittman Jr. he's a talented receiver. And he had, the guy who, I can't stand, Carson Wentz, throwing in the ball last year. This year he's got Matt Ryan throwing to him. So I have a lot of high hopes for him. I like the kid Alec Pierce that they drafted out of Cincinnati as another receiving option. And, of course, with Matt Ryan there, he can manage a game. I mean, I think this team is definitely looking at over 9 wins. I'd give them a 10-7 record. But
I got them winning the game in Foxborough and actually going 11-6.
All right. Okay.
Matt Ryan will not be shy playing in Foxborough, where he, not too far from where he plays college games at Boston College. He's going to have a big game, and that Super Bowl sticks in his mind, and he's going to pay him back. Okay.
All right. I like that. It's good. It's good prediction. We always seem to just be off by a game at most, but okay.
Yeah. All right. What do you got next? Tennessee?
Yeah, I got Tennessee next. Unfortunately, for those Titans fans out there, don't get your hopes up with this team this year. Here's a team that was the number 1 seed overall last year. This year, I have them out of the playoffs. I just mentioned the second place team in the South is probably not going to find their way into the playoffs, right? They open up with some tough games early on. They're at Buffalo, Vegas, and at Indy in weeks 2, 3, and 4. That's a tough stretch right there. Maybe they pull one out of there. They also have an early bye in week 6. So they don't get that rest mid-season like some of the other teams do. And week 9 to 13, look at the stretch.
Yeah,
at KC, Denver, at Green Bay, Cincy, at Philly. And, oh, by the way, you still got to play at the Chargers and Dallas later on in the season after that. This team's going to – I got them at 7-10. I got them at 7-10 this year.
Wow. You know what? A.J. Brown's a huge loss. Obviously, they lost who I think is one of the best wide receivers in football, even though he hasn't been the last few years. God, he played for the Falcons before.
Julio Jones.
Yeah. So they're going to miss that, but they do have conceivably maybe the best runner. You said Jonathan Taylor. They still got Derrick Henry. He's a stud. I see them going 10-7. I really do. I see them going 10-7.
Wow. Okay.
I see them that the last 5 games, I think, makes a difference for them. I think if they can win in those last 5, that's where they go 10-7.
Yeah, but they'll be playing teams when they play at the Chargers in Dallas in their 2 of their last 4 weeks, I think. Those are teams that are going to be fighting for the playoffs as well. So, and I don't like the fact, like you said, the receiving placements. They got Robert Woods, but where is he in his career? He's probably plateaued, if not on his downside of the career. This kid, Traylon Burks, was highly touted out of Arkansas. He's not looking good so far in camp. And he also is asthmatic, and they knew that when they drafted him, but that seems to be hindering his ability to do some things that they wanted him to get up to speed with the team during camp. So just caution there. Caution with the Titans. I'm not expecting big things out of them this year.
We'll see. I think Vrabel does a good job, but I'm sticking with my 10-7. All right, you got him at 7-10, so we're a complete flip on that one.
But let me tell you this then, because I said this team's not putting two teams in the playoffs. A 10-7 record, they could get in.
It's going to be close. I don't think 10-7 gets you in the AFC this year, though. I don't think. We'll see.
Okay.
All right, who do you got next?
Next, I have Jacksonville.
I do too.
Yeah. We know that Trevor Lawrence, talent's there. We know his situation last year was horrible, right? You have the whole coach situation, right? Letting go of the coach. It was a first-year coach.
Yep.
You have the whole situation with Travis Etienne out of Clemson, who they drafted last year. It was highly touted. He ends up ripping apart his Achilles and missing the entire season. He's back and supposedly healthy. They did acquire some receivers. They got Christian Kirk from Arizona. Zay Jones, who I think is very, very underrated athletically. This guy can get a ball, and he's there. I think he's their wide receiver 3 actually, because they still have Marvin Jones Jr. as well. So he's got himself not a stud core of receivers, but he's got himself a nice set of receivers there.
Yep.
And if they can, manage the game, run the ball, pass the ball, I think this team can win some games. I mean,
and of course they're playing the last place schedule, right? Which means they have other teams that are not that good either on their schedule.
Exactly. They got Houston twice in their division, right? They got to play Washington. They play the Giants. They play at Detroit. They play at the Jets. So there's some winnable games in there. I think the under over 6.5. I think that's still pushing it. I don't think this team could get to 7 wins this year. I would still lean on that under, but just barely. So I think this is right now a 6-11 team, maybe 5-12, 5-12, 6-11. I got them right in that spot. If one game goes the other way, though, they could go over and they could win 7, but that's a stretch for them this year.
I'm more worried about them going 4-13, but right now I got them at 5-12.
Okay. All right.
5-12. They will, but you said it. They're going to be improved. They have to be better than they were last year. And when you're playing, you just mentioned Jets, Giants, Detroit, and of course Houston, right? So there's 4 of their wins probably in that mix. All right, so obviously we get the last place team, Houston. I'm gonna just tell you right now, I'm not changing on my prediction from last year.
You're going with the 2-15?
2-15.
Yeah, I'm gonna give them 3-14. Only because Davis Mills turned out to be a pretty decent quarterback last year, rookie quarterback last year that nobody had in their mix, right? With the quarterback class that they had. He ended up going in like the 3rd round or whatever. He came in, the kid's, he's 6'4", he's 225. He can make some throws. He had a touchdown interception ratio better than, 1-to-1. Yeah. He was doing okay. I do like Damian Pierce out of Florida that they drafted at running back. I think he's going to win that job because you look at who they have now. They have basically Marlon Mack and Rex Burkhead as their running backs 1 and 2. I think he'll work his way in and end up making a difference there at running back. They drafted Mechie out of Alabama. They got Brandon Cooks. I think this team will surprise a few teams this year. They do play at Chicago. Chicago could be possibly the worst team in the NFL, I think, this year. I do. I really do. They got Jacksonville, of course, twice. They go to the Giants. They got Washington at home. There's another team that might be one of the worst teams in the league, but they got winnable games. If they do split those 5 or 6 games I just mentioned, you got your 3 wins. So that's what I'm going with them, 3-14. I'll put them one game over what you got them at.
By the way, what does Vegas have them at? Do you know?
Under over is 4.5.
Oh yeah, it's definitely under.
I would take that under too, right? I don't think they're a 5-win team this year.
All right,
they're actually the lowest. They're actually the lowest under over in Vegas right now for a win total.
And by the way, David Culley, right, the head coach, raw deal. The guy's a good guy, African-American coach. Unfortunately, this is going to screw him over. This is what happens, unfortunately, to some of these coaches that get stuck in these lame duck jobs. The roster is going to hurt that guy, and it's a shame because from all I've heard, he's a good guy, knows football, deserves better than this, right?
Yeah. They got a little ways to go, though. They got some serious rebuilding to do there.
Yeah. Well, the one thing they don't have is Deshaun Watson to be causing them distractions, right?
That's true.
All right. What are we going to do next week?
So next week, we like to switch between the AFC and the NFC. So we'll keep it light. We'll go over to the NFC, and let's do NFC East, since that's probably one of the worst divisions in the NFC. We'll start off with what we think are the two worst divisions, and then we'll work our way up from there.
Wow, the NFC East.
I mean,
worst.
you can make an argument for the South being the worst, but you know.
All right. Okay. All right. Hey, by the way, real quick as we sign off, Wimbledon, who do you like to win this thing on the guy's side?
Oh man.
I know I'm sticking with Nadal.
Can we go with Joker again?
We'll see. He's going for the calendar year Grand Slam. We'll see. This will give him 3 for 3 if he wins it. I'm sticking with him until he loses.
All right.
All right, brother. Have a happy 4th. Take care.
All right, man. You too.